what the Ethiopians were practicing, like, you know, when you talk about Christianity and you talk about how the Europeans beat Christianity into the African people, you get Africans to refer you to Ethiopia because, of course, I think I did that here before now. Ethiopia had the oldest Bible and the complete Bible on earth. Ethiopia has it. And the books that the European body termed forsaken, the books that the Roman Catholic Church termed forbidden and removed, are still in the Bible that the Ethiopians use. All right. Now, what the Ethiopians practiced, they didn't call it Christianity. They didn't call it Christianity. It was the knowledge of Christ and a way of life for them. And that's why in Ethiopia till today, they still practice and believe in ancestors. They believe in communicating with ancestors. And in your Bible, they told you is forbidden. They told you is bad. Now, communicating with ancestors is one of the attributes of African spirituality because we believe that our ancestors live in us. All right? So, and Christianity tells you when you do that is bad. So you can't tell me what the Ethiopians practice is the European Christianity. No, it's not the same. It's not the same because I think a lot of you still argue that here. It's bad when you talk to your ancestors. It's bad when you think about them. It's bad when you keep their pictures. And that's why in our homes, we grew up without the pictures of our ancestors. Without the picture of our great-great-great-grandparents. Without their portraits. Because they tell you those are bad. And then one can carry a gay man's picture and put in your house. They tell you how to put it in your house. This is the one that pursues evil spirit. You don't know that you are bringing the evil spirit into your own home. All right. Now, the forbidden books, the books that the general church termed forbidden, the universal church says no good. These books are books that when you read them, you incur the wrath of God. These books are still in the Bible that the Ethiopians use. That's why I say they are not the same. So don't come and say Ethiopians practice Christianity before Christianity started in Africa. These are the things that most people go out to say. Christianity started in Africa. The complete Bible is in Africa. Yes, because the Ethiopians are in the possession of somewhat the somehow direct translation of those scrolls into a book. They are in possession of that. All right? But that doesn't make them Christians. And I keep saying that the knowledge of Christ is different from what we call Christianity today. And I've said it before now. If you are not ready for this, please just go. As people, as the 9 ether being, we have Christ in us. And that's when you go about looking for Christ somewhere, you're wasting your time. We all have Christ in us. And I keep saying this here, that we have God in us. There is no God outside of you that is coming to save you.
Talk about this video for educational purposes.
Bunch of white nationalists push Christianity down your throat.
Christianity was in Africa before Europe.
Yeah, like Ethiopia. Go ahead, keep going, brother.
From the outset, we see what is known as straw man argumentation, arguing for a point that was never made. The comment being made here by the woman is that white Christian nationalists are trying to force people to assimilate to their beliefs. This is very true. The list of examples is growing daily. But let's dig into the arguments being pushed here. The black student says that Christianity was in Africa before Europe, again pointing to the Ethiopian church, and the Ethiopian Bible is proof of this.
Christianity was in Africa before Europe.
Yeah, like Ethiopia. Go ahead, keep going, brother.
The Ethiopian Bible is older than the King James
And thank
Bible.
you.
Furthermore, he tells the blatant lie, perhaps the biggest in this video, that because Christianity existed in Ethiopia before the dawn of colonialism in the 15th century, that it is false to assert that European colonialism caused the spread of Christianity in Africa.
The argument that Christianity brought, that colonialism brought Christianity to Africa is completely wrong.
Why is it completely wrong?
Because Christianity was already in Africa before Europe.
He also says Christianity is not a European religion because of this.
One thing you need to know is that Christianity is not a European religion.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. One more time. Real loud.
Christianity is not a European religion.
But in arguing this, he makes the presumption that all Christianity is the same, that the kind of Christianity being practiced in Ethiopia is the same that is being taught in the Western Church. But this isn't remotely true. We can look at all the ways that the Ethiopian church differs from the Western church, from things like the practice of ancestral veneration to the differences in the Bibles. Most Western churches use Bibles that have 66 books. The Ethiopian church has over 80. But if you need more historical context, look at how Ethiopia and its Orthodox church fought off European colonization and invasion that was twice sanctioned by the Catholic Church in Italy. This first happened in 1896 and later on in 1935. Many interpretations, practices, and cultural contexts exist under the umbrella of Christianity. I digress. It is intellectually dishonest to suggest that European colonialism isn't the main reason why Christianity became widespread in West and Central Africa, where the ancestors of Black Americans are from. Let's get into some of the source material. But I want to start with basic African geography, because I keep finding a common problem. Africa is much bigger than people think it is. Thanks, American education. But this for context. Check out this map and you can see how many countries could fit on the landmass of Africa. Keep that in mind. Arkebulan, Africa makes up 20% of the Earth's entire landmass. So when we talk about, here's a part 2 addressing these false claims.
The argument that colonialism brought Christianity to Africa is completely wrong.
Why is it completely wrong?
Because Christianity was already in Africa before Europe.
Be sure to check out part 1 if you haven't already. But I wanted to highlight resources for you to better understand the impact of European colonialism and the spread of Christianity in West and Central Africa where my ancestors are from. The notion, the implication that European colonizers didn't have to forcibly convert West and Central Africans to Christianity because Christianity existed in Ethiopia is untrue. Janine Hill Fletcher talks about this in her book, The Sin of White Supremacy. It highlights how Pope Nicholas V linked West African slaving to evangelization in the 1450s. And from that point forward, bringing pagans, unbelievers, or so-called enemies of Christ to the Christian faith was popular justification of slavery. In many ways, Western Christianity and white supremacy are ideologically inseparable, a point Eric Weed makes well in his book, The Religion of White Supremacy in the United States. And the results of this marriage were efforts of forced assimilation and conversion that impacted nearly every nation on the planet, including indigenous nations in Africa and the Americas where they had their own spiritual traditions. Let's dig into Slave Religion by Dr. Albert Rabbitoe, a Yale scholar, a longtime professor at Princeton, and one of the premier scholars of African American religious history. He even talks in his book about how the conversion of slaves was viewed as justification for the enslavement of Africans. One Portuguese colonizer said that the enslaved had gotten the better end of the deal because of their contact with the Christian faith. His words, "For though their bodies were now brought into some subjection, that was a small matter in comparison of their souls, which would now possess true freedom forevermore." This was the narrative from the beginning, and it's not because they ran into a bunch of African Christians, but because they realized that the spiritual traditions of the Africans they encountered were by and large not Christian. Like, this is how they rationalized enslavement. That's how they assuaged any guilt that we'd feel from the contradictions of their words, beliefs, and actions. And when that didn't work, they tried to say we weren't even human. So missionary zeal, Dr. Rabbitoe writes, was a key motive in colonizing the so-called New World. He talks about specific instances where instructions were sent from the crown to colonial governors in America to do all within their power to facilitate and encourage the conversion of Negroes and Indians to Christianity. He talks about a process called the death of the gods, where African liturgical seasons, prescribed rituals, traditional myths, and languages of worship were attenuated, replaced, altered, or lost. But yet and still, he wrote that the gods of Africa were carried in the memories of enslaved Africans across the Atlantic. And how do those gods and memories show up today? In the very traditions their descendants now demonize as evil due to indoctrination. Traditions like Candomblé in Brazil, Santeria in Cuba, Shango in Trinidad, and Vodou in Haiti. But they also show up in Black church culture. Baba Ifa Karate wrote about this in his book. Africans, however, maintain the African within the imposed and enforced Christianity. Evident is the creation of Negro field hollers, spirituals, getting the Holy Ghost, which is a form of possession, shouting, speaking in tongues, intense preaching, music, praise dancing, and so forth, he writes. The African soul was not extinguished during enslavement, but simply transfigured. African Muslims were also a sizable portion of the millions taken from Africa. In West Africa, Islam began to spread from the 9th century onward, primarily through the activities of traders and scholars from North Africa and the Middle East. And that's how we get testimonies like that of Omar ibn Said, a West African man from present-day Senegal who wrote his biography in Arabic script in 1831. He wrote that he left this country when he was 37 years old, and in that time he went from the prayers of his Islamic tradition to praying what Christians know as the Lord's Prayer. Take a look at this.
Born and raised in West Africa, Omar ibn Said was 37 years old when he was kidnapped and taken to America as a slave in the 1800s.
Before I came to the Christian country, my religion was the religion of Muhammad.
His autobiography in his native language of Arabic is believed to be the only one of its kind, the original words of a Muslim American slave.
Then there came to our place a large army who killed many men and took me and brought me to the great sea.
It's written in Arabic, and so his masters could not really read it at all. They could not really influence its writing. And so it was really his exact words, unfiltered by the machinery of the editorship of masters and abolitionists, as other slave narratives were.
A machinery Al-Raya says erased countless narratives, including the fact that up to 20% of Africans enslaved in America were Muslim.
I'll stop here for now. I know that people need it to be true that colonialism wasn't involved in the spread of Christianity in West and Central Africa, but we cannot erase or rewrite history when it makes us uncomfortable. We have to accept it.
We are a conquered people, we are a colonized people, and that's why we have the notion, we have the ideas that we have. Said being a Muslim, all right, is also as a result of colonization. The Arab enslavement, all right. When the Arab came to the continent, of course, the Arab came in before the Europeans. The Arab came in with Islam. They Islamized everyone they could. And the Europeans came in with Christianity and they Christianized the region that they could Christianize. So it's a game. And the attitude portrayed by this European had nothing to do with the life of this Christ. Because when you have a full knowledge of Christ, you are an enlightened person. You allow yourself, the Christ in you, to speak through you. You don't do evil to people. All right? You are total purity. But because it's a means to control people, they don't care whether people live a life that is worthy of emulation or not. Their own is an instrument. To them, this is an instrument and is working perfectly for them. So what was practiced or what is even still being practiced in Ethiopia is different from what you think is Christianity. It's different. So don't go about say, oh, Christianity started in Ethiopia, so we have to be Christians by force. It's not true. Ethiopians believed in their ancestors. They remember their ancestors. They incorporated it into their worship system. They remember their ancestors. The forbidden books that was thrown away by the Universal Church, they have it. They still read it. So you want to tell me it's the same thing? It's not the same. And that's why there's effort put in to bring down those people. They've done everything. They use the so-called Jews in Israel right now to wipe them out. Anyway, I felt like sharing this with you, and you leave your thoughts and comment there at the section, and I'll see you in my next one. Until then, love yourself, love others, stay safe, stay positive, always your majesty. Bye for now.